We also have a great friend who's been part of the team nearly since the beginning. I'm going to introduce him right now. He's sitting in the wings. I'm going to give a big welcome to Zach. Hey, Zach, how you doing?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me here,
Are
Edmar.
you kidding? Thanks for coming. Listen, I think this is going to be a great live stream for people that have been following the game, but also people who are just brand new to the game, who don't know exactly what we're trying to go for in terms of the science of space combat and our vision of what things could theoretically and plausibly look like a few years from now. We dived into the past about kind of the storyline and the narrative and corporations, so we're not going to really touch on that today. But want to really dive into some of those questions that we've been seeing on, like I said, on the Steam page and on the trailer video on YouTube, as well as some comments from that great LT Gaming video that reviewed the demo. Speaking of which, the demo is live for everybody, so you go right to our Steam page. I want to say hello to everybody watching in the live chat. So if you're watching live, thanks for joining. Let us know where you're watching from. That's always cool to see. If you watch this as a replay, thanks for watching. And feel free to also engage in our Discord server afterwards, where we have a channel to talk about live streams. Okay, Zach, so let everybody know what, because I think people could be very impressed and probably surprised that we have someone with your caliber that's been working with the team for so long. But I don't think players who have been playing the game will be very surprised because of the way we've kind of embraced the realism in the game and from a Newtonian physics and a shipbuilding perspective and weapons. So before we go into that, why don't you tell me what your background is and kind of like what your focus is on the game?
Well, the joking title, but I think there's some merit to it, is that I am the science guy. The technical term is technical consultant, but I am a doctor of aerospace and mechanical engineering, graduated last year. And my role was making sure that we got the science right, but also figuring out what we need to do in order to achieve however these ships are meant to move. Are there factors that we haven't considered? And this keeps coming up in the most unexpected ways. For instance, when we're looking for visual effects for nukes, for instance, that ended up being a differential equation combined with hydrodynamics. There's sciences you don't expect to come up in this field. And this makes for, it helps our we don't look like anything else because of it. No one's delved in this deeply.
Yeah.
We keep discovering these new things.
And I think what's been really surprising me, we touched on this a couple weeks ago when Jack Lamias, the director, was here. We talked about, the kind of question in all of our heads, I think, was, could this be done in a way that is still fun as a game? And I think the resounding answer to that, thankfully, through feedback from not only our beta, but also in the demo that's out right now, is that, yes, it definitely is a lot of fun. I think it takes skill and some practice to master some things, of course, like every good game, I think. But there is definitely a funness to this game that I think we were all very, very happy to see come about by putting all these things together. Well, Zach, we are super fortunate. So we're going to take questions from the audience.
Okay.
So now everybody knows who you are and kind of your background. I want everyone to just guide your questions to Zach. Feel free to post anything you like. I think you've actually been instrumental in several different areas of science in the game. I think the big one is probably the ship design. There's also the weapons systems themselves. There's also the effects in the game, right? Those are the three biggies, I think. Am I leaving anyone out for major topics?
There is work on the background as well. There are additional features which may or not come in. This depends on how relevant we find them to design into gameplay. Some of this we're still discovering.
Yes.
Zach's been very involved in the world building as well, defining the different corporations and what their focus is and what drives the conflict in the solar system.
Okay, so that's super helpful because I think we're going to dedicate a whole a mission briefing on the backstory and the world building, because I think that just deserves a whole show. That'll probably have to be more like an hour show at least. But on that topic, really quickly, we do see a good question here from the chat. This is from Robert from YouTube. He's asking, how much did the show Expanse actually change what we're doing with the game? And this is something that I think a lot of people would not realize, especially if you're new to the game. We started working on this game literally 14 years ago. That is a long time, but way before I had gray hair, way before my daughter was even born. And she's in
2 degrees ago, as I like to joke.
We started this game a long time ago, and we actually started this long before the Expanse was ever anything on TV, right? I think
Robert does bring that up, actually.
What's that?
Robert does bring that up, actually, in their next comment.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so let me look for it here.
I can address that.
Okay, cool. Oh, he does. Yeah.
So I had read the novels about the time they were published, which started in 2011. And the novels portray space combat a bit more realistically than the TV series does. So I was really enjoying the novel series, and then when the TV series came out, it immediately became my favorite sci-fi series of all time, because it came the closest to portraying things realistically, and it was a great way to introduce new members of the team to our vision. And it just was like, okay, if you're going to join this team, you have to watch The Expanse.
Yeah, it's a great show, but I want to clarify, because that could be a little confusing to people. This was started and the design was locked in. The adherence to Newtonian physics was before, and before actually you came on the team, not from the start. Actually, you came in a little bit afterwards. I had been working with some team members from the Two Dawn group in the beginning after we did Ravaged. And then Jack came on, and then luckily you came on. So it's definitely evolved over time. But our interest and design of the game, I think, was also inspired by 2001: Space Odyssey, and things along that nature, where they're really like going for, okay, what does space really look and feel like? And at that time, there really were no actually other space games. So I think that's been so to me, when Expanse came out, as we were developing, this was after our Kickstarter. So you got to see actually our video from Kickstarter was before the Expanse was out, and even during the Kickstarter, people were like, whoa! And the second Kickstarter was like, oh my gosh, like this is this is so different. So we were very excited to see that, wow, what we're thinking of actually really works. And look at how these guys are visioning a very similar thing. So it's really it was very validating, I think, in my mind, that okay, we were onto something.
That's exactly how I intended to put it myself. It was incredibly validating to see that this was popular.
We're just, and we're also just big fans. I think the Expanse is a great story, but I think doing realism for games is not a very common thing, because, like I said, it's really tough to get the game correct. But I think that's something that we've shown to be true.
I want to say that here there was also some really good, fairly hard science fiction movies like The Martian and, to a lesser extent, Gravity. Interstellar isn't that hard, but it's still significantly harder than many things that came before around that period.
Yeah. Yep. So speaking of that, okay,
let's the starships in Avatar.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
They're tremendously well designed for what the rest of the world looks like.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier. But Light Shadow is asking, any plans on having missions inside asteroids, big stations?
Yes.
The resounding yes. Absolutely. And our trailer, you can actually see that in our trailer. So check the description, do a search for In the Black trailer on YouTube. You will find actually some nice clips of that interior station battling, which is actually pretty intense, especially when you're playing with a team.
Yeah, the mining facility currently is being used for team deathmatch. We had a really cool single player mission that we took it offline because it needs to be reworked. The idea was that in a Shrike, you've been sent in to disable the asteroid facility's defenses. And so you're flying through the facility to various nodes and deploying information warfare packet, all the while being hunted by killer drones. And That was one of the featured missions that we showed at Gamescom several years ago that attracted a lot of attention, and it was brutally difficult. But yeah, it was one of my favorites. We're going to bring that one back.
We have a question here from Todd on YouTube. Maybe we should talk about this while you hear Zach. What's the effective AOE resonance of a nuke in a vacuum?
So the way a nuke kills you is quite different in space. On Earth, there's the pressure shockwave, there's the fireball. The radiation is a more long-term damage than the short-term destruction. In space, on the other hand, there's no material to form all that much of a fireball. If the nuke is not point blank, if the nuke is not on a surface, the only thing that can form the fireball is the material of the nuke, which is like maybe a ton. It's not all of the atmosphere around it. So the fireball is quite small. It very quickly dissipates into nothing. However, you still now on Earth, all of the radiation that comes out is very quickly absorbed by the air, and that's part of what contributes to the fireball. In space, it moves essentially unimpeded, and so that deadly radiation will still be across several kilometers. Now, how far away you have to be before it instantly kills you depends on the yield of the nuke. I want to say for our higher yields, for like a megaton nuke, it was still more than 10 kilometers distance before it would just instantly kill you. All of that radiation at closer ranges getting absorbed by your ship is still going to cause it to start evaporating. That is how a nuke can destroy you in space, even from far away.
Crazy.
But what we're envisioning, though, are much smaller yields. In fact, sub-kiloton yields was one of the targets, because that could be a weapon that could be used somewhat freely with plausible deniability. You're not.
Yes.
In which case, as a missile warhead, a sub-kiloton nuke is still quite lethal at point blank range, but a few kilometers away, it's not going to be that deadly.
Oh, I did do the math with you regarding that for like a W-54 equivalent, and essentially, if it's point blank, the little sphere of complete annihilation fits the Shrike. The Shrike is just gone, reduced to atoms.
Very cool. Thanks for that question. Go ahead, Dave. You gonna say something else?
A Pegasus, maybe chunks of it will survive, but you will be dead regardless.
Very cool. Okay, so let me see. We have a good question from a new viewer here. I see from Logan, coming from YouTube. What do fighters offer that drones couldn't achieve just as easily? I don't really think we need to justify fighters, but I'm curious if there's a reason for the setting or not to use drones. Well, I'll give my answer from just a high level perspective when I originally wanted us to do this type of project. And that was, I envisioned a future where there would be a banning of leveraging AI and drones in some certain situations. And we can look back in history and look very not too long ago, where as a global population, humans decided that chemical weapons had no place in warfare, even though your goal is to battle someone else, another country, or someone inside the country. It was decided uniformly that is no place in warfare. So there are things that can be done by humans that are not done by humans. And people are probably familiar with things we have like Geneva Convention. So I envisioned a future where that might be also the case for maybe some unforeseen event, that there's some really strict laws about leveraging some things when it comes to a battle in space, very similar to that previous example. So that's my kind of answer to why humans are in cockpits and in charge of the ships. Obviously, drones are a little different because drones can be controlled by humans and mostly are remotely, teleoperation, I guess. So maybe that's a little different, but what do you guys think about that question?
Well, teleoperated drones are susceptible to their comms links being disrupted. any electronic system is subject to electronic warfare. Arguably, humans could be subjected to something similar. But fundamentally, it really comes down to what's more interesting, what's more engaging. Burnside's Zeroth law of science fiction. Humans in the cockpit are more interesting than drones.
Admittedly, we are somewhat narratively cooking the books. We did set up the universe to support humans in the cockpit to the greatest extent, like heavy EW environment. And there are a few other things, including a hand wave we kind of had to implement for game purposes was, okay, if your ship is destroyed, how on earth are you still playing? So in universe, we have a cellular reconstitution technology. So human life is incredibly cheap. If your body being destroyed is not equivalent to your death, then it's much easier for someone to say, oh, just keep throwing bodies at the problem.
Bring on clone number 3.
But there's also one other factor I want to bring up, which comes up in this discussion, and I think it's a big misconception, the idea that drones would be far more maneuverable than fighters. And I say this is a misconception because it depends on the technology you're using. As it happened for our fighter drives, for instance, the mass of life support and pilot is insignificant relative to the rest of the fighter, which means that it doesn't really affect your acceleration the theoretical acceleration profile, and your engines are not powerful enough to give you acceleration so high that they will instantly knock out the pilot, in which case there isn't really a point to giving it over to a drone. You're not going at like 10 plus Gs where the drone can still figure things out, but the pilot would have blacked out.
Okay, well, that's super helpful. And we also, another question here, which I think is a nice one. Here we should put on the screen from Light Shadow. Any plans on having warhead missiles, less damage, but more modular hits? I'm not sure I understand that specifically.
Yeah.
Maybe
you could elaborate on that question a little bit.
If you can elaborate, that would be great. But speaking of missiles, so our effects artist, Ryad, he apologized he didn't have the update in the sheet that I use for these live streams, but he did share just a few minutes ago with me that the work that happened this week on his side was getting Hyperion destruction integrated. And that's
nice.
These destruction effects are actually very tricky and very involved, right? Because they involve lots of pieces, and the way that they explode or deteriorate, we're trying to make it as realistic as possible. So he also worked on the internal damage of strike cockpit design, which is amazing. I'm really excited to see that, actually. So one of the areas of effects that I thought needed the most love was the cockpit. So explosions and cockpit. Because the players spend so much of their time in the cockpit, I feel like the cockpit really needs to really be a very compelling experience. So we've asked Riot and the rest of the team to kind of come up with some good ideas. What's a good realistic way to show damage inside the cockpit and other visual effects for things that might be happening? So some examples he provided are the control modules being fried and short-circuiting, monitors glitching, of course, post-processing of the hit effects like more shock when hit. So look forward to those things in an upcoming update of the demo and their main game. I should also clarify that we do plan to keep updating the demo. The update we did this week was specifically to address some comments, optimizations, and improvements, but we're going to continue doing that. That's not going to stop. And the demo will be available even through early access, and especially through early access. I know that there's a big question also that comes up a lot, and that is the different types of missiles we have in the game, and when you use one versus the other. And I guess the missile types, but that could also go for lasers even. When would you want to use lasers? So what's our general guidance on the different type of weapons in the game and when you should use which? It might be more of a Jack question, but if you
the most powerful weapons are missiles and railguns. Railguns are require more skill to use effectively. But once you develop that skill, you can be really, really deadly. Missiles are, essentially fire and forget. So if you've got a bunch of missiles, you can do a lot of damage, depending on the enemy's CWIS abilities. And that's something that we're obviously going to be going back and forth on the tuning and having distinct curve in the quality of CWIS versus quality of missile and how much it costs. Like right now, the game doesn't charge you per missile, and the missiles are all at the same quality. Down the road, you will pay more for more effective missiles. You will pay more for more effective CWIS. We'll have countermeasures as well. So there's going to be a steady arms race there, and for players a trade-off. And what can I afford? How much do I want to spend on the more effective weapons versus a lot of weapons? And with the gimbal or turret mounted weapons like lasers and the autocannons and miniguns, those are designed primarily as point defense, as close-in weapon systems to protect you from incoming missiles, or if you're flying escort, you're providing that service for other ships. But those weapons can be used as offensive weapons to take out other targets, other ships. They don't have the range of the missiles and the railguns, but if you've got a Pegasus or a Reyes with 6 VDB-20s, you're going to do a lot of damage at close range.
I will say, as an addendum to Westman's point, that principally, railguns and missiles have infinite range in space just because there's no air to slow things down. A projectile goes on forever. A missile goes on forever. Lasers, on the other hand, as it turns out, do have a fundamental range, and that's because the laser turret is essentially a big magnifying glass that's trying to focus on something a few miles away. Now, depending on the specific light you're using for the laser and how big the lens is, you can focus further away, but it's still going to be for something you could deploy on a fighter, it's still going to be only a few kilometers. Yeah. I think we might get tens of kilometers for some of the best ones we have in the game. But if you want to, you're not firing at someone from light seconds away with a Shrike.
And actually, I wanted to circle back. Dave, you mentioned CWIS earlier. There might be people who don't know what CWIS is. Do you want to give a quick definition?
Close-in weapon system. In the Expanse terminology, it's the PDBs, point defense batteries. It's automatic weapons that have a very high rate of fire and try to throw up a wall of lead towards any incoming missiles.
Very cool. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left. We touched on this earlier, but just really quick, I just want to make sure Todd knows that we are planning for multi-crew ships, probably 2-seaters, 3-seaters. I will we'll keep updated on the mission briefing. We'll share more information. Another good question here from Jacob on YouTube. Will our credits carry over from demo to early access? That's a resounding no. The demo is separate from early access. So demo is meant, again, to give people a taste and feel for what the gameplay is like, what the physics is like in the game, what the experience is like, so you kind of know whether you want to jump into early access. So if you're a big player and you get to early access demos where you can tell your friends, try that first before you try buy early access.
I'm sorry, Jacob.
Jacob, I'm very sorry to disappoint you, man. I'm really sorry, but that's what it goes. Listen, man, let's be realistic. The demo is free. There's no,
maybe I'm just throwing this out there, Edmar. Maybe we can look into some special badge or skin or something.
Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to that, actually. That's a good point. I think that we should reward people who gave us feedback in the demo and played the demo and then moved on to early access. We'll have to think of a good like in-game kind of term for those. Like in Kickstarter, you get those early backers. So who are those players in the beginning? Zach is thinking about it right now. You got an idea?
Well, very early on, we did have, like in the narrative, a specific very early core. Back when we were still Starfighter Inc., we had the titular Starfighter Inc., which were supposed to be some of the first fighter pilots in the galaxy, you can have them be like under that name, or even you get an automatic like license to be with them, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up. I want to really thank Zach. Zach, I think it would be really fantastic for to do a more in-depth live stream on specifically on the science. Maybe we do an AMA also on Reddit. I think that would be a lot of fun. So definitely keep your questions and comments coming. Again, I want to remind everybody, use that in-game feedback system that is live in the demo. I hope you enjoy the latest patch. We have the team working on the next patch now. I apologize for two things with this week's live stream. Number one, my camera's not working here. It's flipped over halfway through. So you have to just, I look semi-presentable. Let's say that. You just can't.
It's okay. We've always known you were a floating voice in the sky.
That's true.
Or should we say in the void?
That's true. And then I also, in future live streams, I'm going to make sure that I encourage our team to provide some videos showcasing the updates. That was the idea. I had prepared a video folder for the team to insert videos from this week's work that was empty. So I think there was miscommunication on that. So I will make sure, because as much as it's great to see our faces here, I want to make sure that the players can kind of see some of the stuff in the background the team's working on. So we'll improve that. And these live streams will obviously, we'll get better and better over time. So thank you for all your patience and for joining these mission briefings. They're a lot of fun to do. That concludes mission briefing number 5. We'll be back next Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Anyone from the team obviously is invited to join us, but we would love to see your questions come in during the week. Let us know what you want us to cover on this next live stream. Of course, we'll cover what we did on the following week, but we'll also cover what's coming up next. Thanks again, Jacob. Really appreciate the support from you and the other viewers today. You're the reason why we're doing this. So let us know how we can do better. All right. Have a great rest of the weekend, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Will do.